second chance. I sat and waited. I knew her well after 14 years of married life. Yes, her need to control every situation would make her rush home, do damage control, and overpower everything else. I lazily pondered the twist she would come up with. He had to throw her for a loop, get caught. She'd always been smart. Scheming, planning, working every angle. I was the most straightforward. If I had something on my mind, it usually came out of my mouth. For better or worse, I tended to lean toward the immediate solution. She hated it. It annoyed her to no end when all her work and all her carefully thought-out plans went to waste. Don't get me wrong, I usually gave her what she wanted. Why? Because I'm a guy, and guys don't usually sweat much. If she wanted it, and if it didn't break us financially or hurt our relationship, she got it. It made her happy. And then she made me happy. And then we were both happy. Happy, 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 happy. It didn't take her long to realize that there was a line in my head that said, when you cross it, things could get really bad. I heard her describe it to her friend once, when she didn't know I was around. I call it the magic moment, the moment when he gets so angry that nothing matters anymore. Not his friends, not his job, not me. Nothing. When he reaches that point, he couldn't care less about what people think or whose feelings are hurt. I'll give you an example. He worked at his old company for 10 years, got a promotion, good reviews. They loved him. Then the management changed. They brought in an expert. 2 weeks later, the expert made a suggestion which they accepted. Everyone's job was reorganized. Bob really didn't care. He had been there so long, he knew almost everything. Then came the blowback. The expert pointed out that employees were paid about 25% more than companies with related positions in the field, so they were being cut to achieve parity. He was told his share was just under $5,000 a year. He laughed at them. Let me get this straight, he said. Asterisk, you want to cut all of our pay because it will bring us down to the local average, right? What kind of effort do you expect us to make thereafter? The same amount or 25% less? One of the reasons this company is so successful is because it pays the best dollars for the best. You can't just come here, fill out an application, and start working. I had to go through 4 interviews, physical and psychological testing before I was hired. You have a very strict attendance policy and strict security rules. So why would anyone go through that to get a job when you pay no more than the place down the street, where you don't have to work nearly as hard and get the same paycheck? Eventually, you won't have parity, you'll have mediocrity. Your older workers will leave to get better jobs or easier working conditions. Production will suffer. Accidents will happen. Morale will drop. Asterisk. He paused to catch his breath. There were 4 people from the corporation and an efficiency expert at the meeting. All of them were bright red. The decision stands, said one of the corporate goons. It will take effect in 3 months. He smiled. That's all right. That's more than enough time to find another job. Consider this my notice. The day the cuts take effect will be my last day. There was a general uproar. The plant manager assured the corporation that he wasn't quitting, he was just venting. Imagine their surprise when, 3 months later, he walked out the door. They tried to get him to come back, yelling that they would inform all potential employers that he had left and quit his job. Already found a job, he replied. 9 months later, most of the old employees were gone. Many had come to work at his new firm. They invited 2 corporate officers to try to convince him to come back by offering him a nice raise. He laughed, wished them luck, and left the restaurant. Once he made his decision, no one in the world could change it. While it might have seemed like a hasty decision at the time, he usually thought long and hard about it. And it made no difference about the financial cost at all, not to him. I can live without money, but not without self-respect. I've heard that about 10 times. I mentally went back in time, trying to pinpoint exactly when she started to think it was acceptable to have sex with another man. She tried to get me to accept a lot of things over the years. Now she was going to Cancun for 2 weeks with her friends, a couple who were on the verge of divorce and one who was married. She had prepared a pretty good presentation. It would be good to get a break from each other. It would make us stronger. Blah, blah, blah. I told her the idea sucked. The thought of her in a foreign country on a beach with lots of alcohol in the company of a group of women, each of whom I viewed as a fool looking for rockets, wasn't really a good idea. But it's your life, so do what you want. Just keep in mind the cost. Over the years, she had internalized that this was one of my key phrases. It meant I knew she was wrong or it was a really bad idea, but I was tired of discussing it. And if she went any further, she'd have to deal with the consequences. Just one more thing, I want my rings. If you're going to extend to strangers, you're going to do it without them. She exploded and started arguing. I just sat there until she ran out of steam. While you were talking, I thought of something else. You won't have time to rent an apartment while you're on vacation. So do you want me to put your stuff in storage or take it to your parents' house? She sulked, yelled, refused to cancel the plans. 3 days before she was supposed to get on the plane, she came home to an empty house and a note. I've thought it over and decided I don't want to live here. Now you can go with a clear conscience, without fear of betraying anyone. Have a safe trip. Oh, and keep the rings. They have no value to me anymore. Her friends urged her to forget me and leave, but she spent 2 days trying to find me. I took some of my vacation and went fishing. I was lazily wondering if she had gotten on the plane when I made another cast, determined to get that big fish I missed last summer. Then I heard the sound. I figured you would be here. Thanks for ruining a really good vacation for me. As you can see, I didn't go. Happy now. I felt my rod shake. Maybe Mr. Big had decided to play a game. Asterisk, hell no, I'm not happy. It's hard to realize that if I were a little weaker, you'd go away, spread your legs, and spend a hell of a lot of time knowing you had me under your thumb. Why are you here? Trying to ruin my weekend? It's not going to work. You know why? Because you won't be here. Go home. Go somewhere else. Just get the hell away from me. Since you won't go, I'll fire the PI and go to irreconcilable differences instead of adultery. Hell, it's so easy these days. We can do it in 4 months. Asterisk. Mr. Big appeared. He burst out of the water, dancing on his tail. He weighed 8 pounds, maybe 10. Damn. It was at that exact moment that it pounced on me. Swearing like a sailor, I was thrown into the water. Mr. Big relaxed a little, spitting out the hook and slapping his tail before heading back into the depths. She screamed and laughed at the same time. The water was just below my waist, but damn cold for early April. I slowly stepped out. Now, how about you talk to me? I don't want a divorce, damn it. You better. That was all she had time to say before I pushed her into the lake. She slipped a little on the mud, flailing her arms in an attempt to keep her balance before losing it and falling backward. I noticed that she was very well dressed. Under that short skirt, when she went down into the water, she didn't look really sexy, covered in mud and grass. I saw that she was completely without underwear, and her nipples were sticking straight out, showing evidence of the cold. She started to climb out, gaining air in her chest to start screaming, as I pushed her back in. As she rose to her feet again, I held up a hand. Listen, don't speak. If you open your mouth before I'm done, I swear I'll jump in and hold you underwater until you stop bubbling. Nod your head if you understand. She must have believed me because she nodded slowly. So, what should we talk about? We both know that if I had given in, you'd be sleeping with someone else right now. Deny it all you want, we both know it's true. I hope your girlfriends are supportive, you will need friends. Maybe you'll spend your time trying to steal men from each other. God knows they all ran after me, even knowing you and I were married. And now I'm leaving. Don't follow me. Don't call me. Don't resist me when the papers are served. As I was leaving, I heard her crying and calling my name. Not surprisingly, she was fighting the divorce, but I wondered why. She hired a really good lawyer who got the case in front of one Edith Vine, a Judge Judy wannabe notorious for trying to keep people together. We had to see a psychologist. I almost got a contempt order for talking out of my ass. This is just nonsense, Your Honor. I don't want to find out. I don't want to save the marriage. I just want out. She's been very cold to me, Mr. James. You don't have to like it, but you have to go, and I'd rather hear you participate. Do you understand? I was pissed, so I actually said it. That fool was so full of it that her eyes turned brown. I understand, Your Honor, but tell me, didn't you go to counseling with your recently departed husband? Did that help? I seem to remember the divorce going through anyway. Let me ask you a hypothetical question, ma'am. If I told you that you were a terrible judge with no clue about the human condition, and if you lost while running for re-election, would that make you angrier because I dared to say that or because I was right? I've never seen someone go from pale to red and back again so quickly. She banged her gavel angrily. Take this man and charge him with contempt of court. My attorney and close friend jumped up in a flash. Hold on a second, Your Honor. You're going to hold a man in jail for asking a hypothetical question? Your opponent in the race will eat that up. Please, he didn't mean anything by it. He's right, Your Honor. It was just a question. I sighed. I take it back. I just couldn't resist. Nevertheless, when you lose in November and become an ordinary citizen on the street like the rest of us, I'll be sure to find you and detail your abilities. I dodged the bullet of contempt, but she got back at me by upping the mandatory sessions from 6 to 12. The first 3 sessions were very unpleasant for both her and the therapist. I love to read, and instead of responding with real words, I used quotes from books and poems. Shakespeare was a gold mine. His work had many cheating virgins in it. They broke through my defenses on the 4th session. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I wasn't as focused as I should have been. When she cried this time, I realized she really meant it. Other times, she did it too easily. This time, she couldn't stop. The therapist asked why I married her. Because I loved her. I knew what she was like. I watched her all through high school and most of college. She manipulated everyone around her to get what she wanted. That's why I never tried to date her. Eventually, she had to ask me out on a date. I went because I was curious, what would she want from me? I wasn't rich. I don't think I was that good-looking. And I wasn't into gambling. We were at a party thrown by one of her friends. Her boyfriend, the guy she had broken up with, was there. She was trying to use me to prove that she could get anyone she wanted, so he'd better submit. Took me about 3 minutes to realize this. After that, I decided to have a little fun. I pretty much ignored her for the rest of the evening, dancing with her friends, flirting a little, groping, all where she could see me. She was furious. Eventually, she pulled me outside and asked, "What the hell are you doing? You're supposed to be with me, the one you came with. Do you understand? Behave yourself." She was shaken by my laughter. "What the hell do you think I'm doing? Apparently, I'm the scapegoat here for your boyfriend, who, by the way, you forgot to tell me you were still dating. I figured, since you lost the case, I'd humor you a little. You need to make some new friends. Loyalty must be missing from their vocabulary. I already have 3 numbers, and Sue pretty much told me that after I take you home tonight, I should come back for a little private after-party." Apparently, no one had ever talked to her like that before. She started crying. "Until recently," I added meaningfully. I could never resist a crying woman. I told her I'd make a deal. She acts like tonight was my date and I hers. We went back to the house, and she clung to my arm all night. We ignored everyone else, dancing only with each other. After a while, we really relaxed and had a good time. I think she was really surprised when I left her at the door with only a little kiss. I had no intention of seeing her again, but she took me as a challenge. She slowly made her way into my heart. I told her right away that I wasn't into her games. We broke up a couple of times before she got the message. Long story short, we got married. I had MS as a child. It was possible I could have fathered a child, but unlikely. When we found out, I asked her to marry me. She chewed me out. I wanted adoption, but she made one excuse after another until I realized it was too late. Now, looking back, that's a good thing. But counselor, she slowly reverted to her old habits. Smugness, I suspect. They were little things, but as time went on, they became bigger and bigger. What she didn't realize was that I didn't care what kind of car she wanted or what style of furniture was in the house. Those things don't matter to me in the slightest. If it made her happy, fine. But then she changed jobs, made new friends. She started wanting bachelorette parties at night again. I trusted her, so it didn't matter. She started coming home later and later. And one night, she showed up at 2 a.m. with mussed hair, crumpled clothes, and smeared lipstick. It was the beginning of the end. She knew she'd screwed up big time. She apologized, saying she was drunk and it didn't go any further than kissing. I left her for 2 weeks. She begged, cried, Swore she'd see a counselor. I weakened. I still loved that stupid fool. I still can't say why. See her? I called the detectives. 2 weeks later, they gave me their findings. Unfortunately, I wasn't surprised. Peter Cummings, the little weasel she'd been working with. According to the report, he was nothing more than a gigolo looking for rich older women to subsidize his lifestyle. Handsome? I guess. I didn't like his eyes. He looked at her Mercedes convertible, the rings on her fingers, the perfect hair, and smelled money. He flattered her. She gave him little gifts. He must have been good in bed. As many times as they dated, I never saw them together. I wasn't asked to give a report to the lawyer I chose. She broke the camel's back with a straw. I waited until I knew they were together. Now I sent her a text. Emergency. Come home. Call. No messages. She called me back 3 minutes later, breathing heavily. What's wrong? It's not really an emergency, more of a courtesy visit. I'm divorcing you. Have Peter follow you. You can leave your car, and he'll help you pack your clothes. Leave your jewelry on the dressing table along with your house and car keys. There was dead silence for a few seconds until she came to her senses. What the hell are you talking about? I'm talking about the post-wedding contract you signed. Remember? The document you signed to prove how unfounded my lack of faith in you was? I'm talking about you sleeping with that slug for at least 3 months. I'm talking about you being in room 334 of the Seasons, naked except for a garter belt. What color is that? Lavender or purple? Live resolution can be pretty murky at times. Here, I should call you a woman of easy behavior, but I can't, because you pay for it with your little gifts and loans. I could see her looking around wildly, trying to see the cameras. Stop looking. You'll never find them. And tell Peter that the leather strap he's wearing looks completely ridiculous on a man of his age and build. There's a site on the internet called Fun Farm that has stupid pictures. Tell him I posted it about 20 minutes ago. He just got famous. He doesn't need to thank me. I gotta go. The locksmith should be here any minute. Wait, I'll be right there. Please, I can explain everything. Curiosity took over, so I grabbed a glass of my favorite wine and began to wait. I heard her pull up, her heels tapping quickly on the walkway as she ran in. She looked around wildly until she saw me in the study. I had started the fireplace and found the fire soothing. She came slowly toward me, and I stood up. Sit down, I commanded, pointing to the back of the chair I had placed across from the couch. She sighed, ready to complain about my tone, but changed her mind and sat down. Wine? I asked, pouring myself another. She nodded prudently, remaining silent. I poured a glass, handed it to her, and sat down again. Give me a second to get comfortable. I love stories, but they tend to put me to sleep, so if I doze off, forgive me. She shuddered. A sharp reply was on her lips before reason intervened. Honey, you know I love you, don't you? She was quiet, waiting for my answer. When I remained silent, she continued. I'm so sorry. Peter was a mistake, but we're done. I told him that when I left. I'm sorry. Maybe you'll do better with the next one. Her anger came out. Really, Shane? You're no help here. I laughed. I'm sorry. I didn't know I was supposed to help. Help with what? Find another lover? There are a few guys in the office who might be interested, but most of them have pretty high standards. Maybe we could get your nude pictures back from Peter, and I could show them the good goods. I could do a review. You're pretty good when you want to be. Do you think that could work? She went pale, wondering how much I actually knew. She was pretty stupid, in my opinion, letting her lover take nude glamour shots of her. Please, stop being mean to me. I'll tell you what. I'll stop if you just tell me why. Why? Knowing you could lose everything. Were you being so stupid? I don't know exactly why. Let me give you an example. Do you remember a pair of Nike sneakers I've had for years? They're past their prime, pretty worn out, but they stay on my feet so well that I can't bear the thought of giving them up. That's what my love for you is like. Tough, comfortable, and I will never leave you. But when you see a pair of red 4-inch heels in a store window, you know they're not practical. They'll probably hurt your feet if you wear them too long. But you know you'll look and feel sexy in them for a while. Those shoes were Peter. Fun for a while. But I couldn't wear them every day. Do you understand, honey? It was just a fling. A little stagger in heels. Knowing you could go home and wear something that made you feel good. Do you understand? I stood up. I think I understand. Thank you for explaining it to me. I walked over to the hall closet and grabbed my jacket. She followed me. What do you understand? You're not throwing me out tonight, are you? No. My lawyer says I can't make you leave until the papers are served. And even then, I have to give you a reasonable amount of time to get your stuff. He suggested 2 weeks, so you'll probably be fine for 2.5, maybe 3. But you won't be able to sleep with me. I'll be a gentleman and move into the spare bedroom. I know how you like that customized shower you told me to install. Her jaw dropped. I continued. I'll tell you what, if you don't make a fuss, I'll help you find a nice apartment, deposit the money, turn everything on, and pay your bills for 3 months. You make decent money, but you've never had to pay your bills, so I'll help you budget. You probably won't have anything left over for spa visits, expensive lunches, or shopping trips, but if you save money, you can afford an evening out every 2 weeks or so. I'll even find you a decent used car, but you'll be responsible for the insurance. Whether or not to take it is up to you, but either way, you'll be out. I reached into the hall closet and pulled out my favorite black fedora. It was vintage, straight out of the 60s. I had a great uncle who never left the house without a hat. When he died, he left me all of his hats. 31, all in perfect condition and stored in their original boxes. They fit me perfectly. I got them at a time when they were just coming back into fashion. I thought I looked good in them. So did many of the ladies in my office. My dear wife said I looked silly. I set the right angle and opened the door. She was still trying to comprehend my words. We need to keep talking. Try to figure things out. It's 10 o'clock. Where are you going? I took her hand off mine. Shoe shopping. I think I'm going to look at something young and sporty. Or maybe I'll find something in cool Italian leather. If I can afford it, I'll probably get both. Don't wait up for me. I laughed, pulling away, knowing she'd hit the speed dial button of my phone. It would ring. She'd hear it clearly on the kitchen table. I ended up getting both in one package. She was leaving me in the dust in her 6-inch heels. 10 years younger. Smart, sexy, straightforward. Didn't play games. A goddess. Funny story, I actually went to court when my divorce was finalized. Even though my attorney said it wasn't necessary. I bumped into the judge who handled my first attempt and ordered us to counseling. Now she was just a regular townie. She was there during her second divorce. I was almost accused of contempt because I couldn't stop laughing.